Hello lovely people, how are you all today? I hope you're all grand. I, on the other hand, am still struggling with this cold that I've had for, I don't know, about 10 days now. It's really sapping my strength and it's just getting on my nerves now, so I need to do something about it and get rid of it. It is partly my own fault because I think I've been burning the candle at both ends a bit, and I haven't been getting in all my vitamins that I ought to. So I'm going to cook this soup for myself this evening. I'm actually going to sneak a portion down to my great aunt as well because I think she'll really like it. And I call it my beta-carotene soup because it's chock full of vitamin A and also chock full of vitamin C. And the wonderful thing about vitamins A and C, they're absolutely fantastic for our immunity. Now, our body can't make those vitamins and it can't store it, so we need to be getting those vitamins into our body every single day. And this one, like I say, is chock full of it. So let me show you the ingredients. They're so beautiful. Actually, I'm just looking at them and thinking, every single one of them I would just scoff anyway because they're so lovely. But let me show you guys, and they are such a wonderful splash of colour, and that actually tells you everything you need to know about why they're fantastic. So for this soup I've got half a butternut. So for instance, if you tried my butternut squash recipe, the stuffed butternut, the other day, you can use your spare half for this. Or if you're using a fresh half for this one, save the other half and roast it and stuff it another night. I've got this is about 400 grams, 400 mils of tomatoes from my stored tomatoes. Now with the tomatoes, I like to use my frozen ones first as opposed to the bottled ones, just in case the freezer breaks. So I'm always trying to use the frozen stuff before dried or bottled. The last of the peppers, so they're quite small, so I've got a couple. These are all sweet peppers, so don't be mistaken for thinking this is a chilli. If you like your chili peppers, great, add one, but I'm not a fan. Gorgeous red onion, these are doing so well for me, storing beautifully. A carrot. Now I say a carrot, but I've got really big hands and that's a big carrot, so a large carrot or a couple of small ones. Good old garlic. So with the allium family, your garlic, your onions, your leek, all of the alliums are fantastic for their antimicrobial properties. Absolutely brilliant for our colds. And then finally a bit of turmeric, which again is fantastic for its anti-inflammatory properties. Now, if you like ginger would be a great one to add to this soup. I'm not actually a huge fan, so yeah, I won't be adding it. I don't have any to hand. If I had some to hand, I may add it, but like I said, I'm not a huge fan, so I'm not going to go racing off to the shops to buy any specially. But just look at all that gorgeous orangeness. So you can literally add, I think, just think of any orange and red veg. So perhaps if you didn't have a butternut squash, you could substitute that with a sweet potato. That's going to help to give it its thickness. Right, this little lot needs chopping and I need to start cooking. Way! Cracking on with the chopping. So I've got the onions and garlic. They've been sweating for about 5 minutes. So I'm just going to add the turmeric now. I'm going to be really generous with this because I absolutely love it. So a big heaped teaspoon. And like I say, if you want to pop some ginger in, maybe about an inch chunk of ginger, what they call a thumb joint. I don't know. Who comes up with these phrases? Oh, that's already releasing a beautiful smell. It's looking a tiny bit dry in there, so I'm just going to add a drop of water. This water just boiled because I've made up 500 mils of stock, because the 500 mils of tomato, it's not enough. Okay, let those carrots sweating for another 5 minutes and then we'll start adding. So in the meantime, carry on chopping. With the carrots and the butternut, they're just chunked up, sort of bite-sized pieces. Part of chunking them up smallish is just to expedite the cooking process. They're going to go in first, and because the pepper doesn't need as much cooking time, the pepper will be the last thing to go in. And I was thinking, if you haven't got a butternut squash, and if you don't have, say, a sweet potato, you could always chuck in a handful of red lentils, and that will help to thicken it. More orange and red stuff, yummy, but also for a bit of extra protein. In fact, if I had thought on, I could have soaked some chickpeas overnight and added some chickpeas to this too, but I didn't think on. This is one of those, I've come home from the garden, I'm cold, I'm weary, I still feel snuffly, so let's just crack on with getting something cooked. Okay, so all the chopped stuff is ready. Let me just wipe my hands a second. Let's just see how these onions are getting on, because we might just chuck in the carrots and butternut now. Yeah, they're nicely softened. Excuse me, bang bang a second. They're nice and soft. So at this stage, let's get the butternuts. Oh, I'm sorry, you didn't see that, did you? The butternut and carrot. Give it a little scrudge around. Get them coated with the turmeric. Then the tomatoes. So again, it's that thing of the minute I start cooking, I want it to be done so I can eat it. Actually, let me bring you over a little way so you can hopefully see into the pan if we're not going to steam up too much. Can you see in? Oh, look at the colours. You see, kind of nature tells us all the time, eat me, I'm gorgeous, I'm good for you. So you see how the tomatoes haven't actually covered the veg, so that's why I'm just going to add this bit of stock I just made up. Give it a bit of a stir. This is when you're going to steam up. Whack that stock in. So now my veggies are covered. Okay, so I'm going to bring that up to the simmer and leave it to simmer for about 15, probably 20 minutes before last thing will be to add the peppers. So go and have a cup of tea while that's simmering and we'll come back and add the peppers. So it's had about 20 minutes to simmer. I just hoiked out one of the little bits of carrot to just test how it's doing, and it's still got a little bit of bite to it, so it's about the right time to now add the pepper, because it will only need about 10 minutes from now. So whack your pepper in. If at this stage you're thinking, oh my goodness, it looks really thick, you can always add a splash more hot water, just a bit of hot water, because there is that little bit of stock in there and there's so much taste from the veggies. You don't really need to worry about adding more stock, just a splash of water. So let's get it covered again. This is the hardest part with cooking, isn't it? All this waiting. Come on, I want to eat you now. We'll leave that 10 minutes. We'll come back to it and we'll blitz it. In fact, I'll tell you what, I'm not going to show you the blitzing, partly because it's noisy, partly because you all know how to blitz things, but also partly because I go a little bit maniacal when I blitz things. It's something about power. I don't know what comes over me, but I go a bit funny when I blitz. So I'm going to let it simmer for 10, then I'm going to blitz it and we'll come back and we'll have a little taste. Yay! Yay, the moment of truth, the best part of doing any cooking. I know some people love to cook for the sake of cooking. I don't. I love to cook for the sake of getting to the end of the cooking bit and eating. Oh my goodness. What's really beautiful is I can smell each and every veg in this. I can smell the squash, I can smell the carrots, obviously I can smell the turmeric, I can smell the peppers, the onions. Right, let's have a little dip and try. Excuse me. Give it a fuff, Vivi. Oh, that's gorgeous. There's a real sweetness to it as well, because obviously there's the sweetness from the tomatoes and the squash. That's absolutely, oh, heaven in a bowl. Okay, before I scoff it all, let me show you how it looks when it's done. I love my soups blended. There's something very comforting about having a blended soup. But look, doesn't that just invite you to have a nosh down? Let me just remove my grubby spoon. So I've treated myself to a little bit of bread with it. Okay, so I rarely eat bread, partly because, well, I can't make it. I mean, I could make it with the ingredients, but what I mean is it's not something I grow on the plot. But every now and again, I fancy a bit, especially with soup. And this meal has cost me, I mean, it's pennies. It's not even pennies. It's ridiculous. There's about 4 portions here, so 4 meals. If you add up the cost of the seeds for the squash, the pepper, the carrots, the onions, the garlic, what else do we have? Tomatoes. Well, some of those were save seed anyway, so I didn't buy them. If you then spread the cost of those seeds between the number of plants you get, and then divide it again between the number of vegetables or fruits you get from those plants, it's pennies. So I decided to treat myself to a little bit of bread. It only cost 70p from my little local Turkish baker. This is so comforting and yummy. I need to go away and eat now. I probably need to eat about 10 bowls of this a day for the next week to shake this cold off. I'm joking, I won't have 10 bowls of soup a day. Look, give it a go. It's really gorgeous. Everything, all of the ingredients apart from the turmeric came out of the garden. It's so wonderful to feed yourself from your own hard work over the summer and the autumn. The carrots, there are more coming out of the ground. I've got squash stored everywhere. I'm going to eat like a princess this winter. So give it a go. It's really yummy. Like I said, if you haven't got one ingredient but you've got another thing that's orange or red, chuck it in, experiment, have fun. That's the main thing. So I need to say to you all right now, do one because I want to eat. So I'll see you all again really soon, I hope. But in the meantime, take care of those sniffles, get your beta-carotene soup down you, and stay well.